roll call, please.
Director Decker,
Here.
Director Young,
Present.
Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Sofke,
Here.
and Director Flavia Carter.
Via Zoom.
Okay, so I think it's one of our directors is in by public comments tonight. All of our votes will be roll call votes. Okay. All right. Well, for President's statement, first I'm going to say, what a glorious week on both sides. It has been gorgeous. I've really enjoyed it, and I've been sad every time I get the car back to this bay where it's been well over 100 degrees. And how happy was I when I got home tonight? It's nice and cool, and the sky was beautiful, and our dusk as I drove in tonight was just. I wish I had time to go take pictures. Since we're the water centric district, I do want to mention the about 5 years ago I got the chance to go to Asheville, North Carolina, spend a few days there. Super nice, and it's the kind of place where you would think, oh, this is not to be impacted by the kinds of things that people near the coast would be impacted by. And they just had a terrible time. At least a couple hundred people died. They've had terrible flooding, homes, cars, trees, buildings scoured away by floods. And their water system was completely inundated, and it's going to be offline for weeks. And so they've already set up, I think their water team is doing a really good job. They've already set up ways for people to come to fill up containers and to get bottled water. So they're going to take care of the people, but it's just a reminder we can get comfortable with how things are, and it's a good opportunity to remember preparations can be really important when something unexpected happens here. So if you haven't laid in emergency supplies, I think you can anticipate earthquakes or good enough reason to do it. Now might be a good time to check the checklist, freshen up whatever you have stored away, make sure you've done enough things. And
So as
we enjoy being here, living here, this is the right moment to just take a moment and also relax and enjoy it and go, okay, what are the things we're going to wish we thought of if we get into a situation where it's concerning? So let me go to, we don't take comment on the president's statement, but we will go to small comments for items that are not on the agenda. So let me do that now. I see 3 hands, 4 hands. Okay, let me start. Sid.
I have a quick question for the flood comments. How could Asheville be inundated? It wasn't seawater, was it?
Rainfall.
Rainwater. Thank you.
And I wanted to have my director statement to say huzzah and thank you for that. I haven't been following you nearly as much as most people. Those details are horrific and also directly relevant to the reason we're in the room. And they remind me that my interest in emergency preparedness, the reason I joined CERT, I've been pushing for the package I have, is precisely to minimize problems like that. There are more lives at stake in the once in 100-year flood than there are in the year-to-year thing the state is having to the bath. And I know we have to jump through all the state's hoops, but we're allowed to spend some of our time and effort actually planning for long-term things, which could actually hurt people. I want to spend as much of my tenure in that direction. So thank you.
All right. Catherine. I'll need to unmute Catherine.
Unmute.
Oh, he's going.
Oh, sorry.
I'm unmuted. The sound that I am receiving here is very garbled.
Yeah, I know.
For every speaker.
All right, I think our tech is working on that. Why don't we pause until we have that sorted? The public used to be able to hear all of it. So if you couldn't hear me, we're taking a timeout while we fix the audio problem.
Let me try and switch computers.
Perhaps we should talk about some non-water business that meets the audio level that they can calibrate on.
I'm thinking we can get this sorted out. You let me know what you want to do with the sound check.
Well, off topic, not.
No, I really just want to
Yeah.
take the time to let them get buggers and do some stuff.
It's not even WSD business, it's the
No,
validation.
I don't want to have anything happen while I work.
Well, it's that's making sound.
No,
Indeed.
they can.
Allison wrote.
Gotcha.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
List of how to set it up every, get a different person every time, the cheat sheet.
Let's just keep it down.
Sound check. Catherine, can you hear me?
This is Allison. I can hear you clearly.
Okay, how about me? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you clearly, Scott.
Terrific. Oh, thank you. Thank you for getting that squared away. Let's resume. Okay, Catherine, did you have anything else for public comment?
No, no, I know people have complained to me in the past about the sound being garbled. It's not an unusual experience tonight.
All right,
So
well,
it's a
maybe,
tough one.
something for us to work on offline. All right, thank you. Let's move on then
I have a
to,
comment.
oh, Clemens, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the introduction, Scott. I think this is perfect for my comment because this agency, like other agencies around us and within the Bay Area, don't have their eggs in one basket, meaning we have a multitude of sources and see definitely an advantage due to this. So if there should be a source contaminated, we have a high number of wells, surface water treatment plant. Of course, there's also a disadvantage because of all of these sources need to be maintained. For example, we just lost a major source, our Claridge water treatment plant and the associated wells due to PFAS. Right now we have the drillers in town, and we're actually looking to increase the capacity of some of our Portola wells. So we're so just a status update here. The Portola 4 well the re-drill has been completed, and we went down to over 700 feet, around 720 feet. So these are quite deep, and we have good knowledge about the underlying aquifer in the back. So this is not connected to any surface water aquifers. So this is very distinct. It's not going to influence any wells around that area if we pump that aquifer. We've done many tests on that. The well also now has been cased. Before they were open borehole, and that created problems. They were sand producing and ultimately collapsed. So I think that is very good news. We are going to initiate a pump test that is going to show, if we were successful. The methodology that we used, mud rotary drilling, did not indicate how much water could be produced from the well. And we're working with the same technology now on the Portola 1 well. Unfortunately, we have less success there. The well was slanted, it was not drilled straight. That's something that happens very common. And due to that, the well had to be drilled out again. It's essentially encrusted with, calcium, magnesium carbonate, and other deposits. In that process, there was metal that was dislodged, probably from the casing, that's now down on the well. And it's quite challenging to figure out how to get that out or drill through it. So that's something that is currently impeding progress on that well. And it's going to drive the cost up to some extent. But, now that we have the drillers, we authorize the work. So hopefully we have, better news at the next meeting about the success at the Portola 1. But all in all, this is, of course, what we have to do out here to get water. I want to remind everyone that we had a moratorium on new connections for over 40 years because of the lack of water in this community. So we have been exploring for new sources, have drilled new wells, and have increased maintenance on our wells. We also, by the way, took care of 2 of the airport wells. That was more a scrubbing and cleaning of the wells so that they're producing good quality water going forward. But that's, what it takes to maintain the system is quite significantly more than other systems in this area. Thank you.
So we're still in the public comment phase. So do you have a simple question?
Did we close on the vacant lot, and is it worth trying to test drill well there yet or not? It's in
We
the
haven't
area?
closed. We have a 45-day period to review. And so.
Will the drillers still be in town? Is it worth trying to test?
We don't have permits for that.
Okay,
We don't have current plans.
just asking things.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that update. It's good to know. Catherine, your hand's up.
Yes, and I wanted to add to Clemens's comments. What it costs us in additional known costs for our water system. Other districts are paying to San Francisco PUC for the lack of maintenance for the SF Hetchy system, and there are billions of dollars that have to be paid. So we are community owned, user voted for, and our books are very transparent about what's going on. And other kinds of agencies, other agencies with other connections may not have that same level of transparency. So I think it's important for the folks listening to this later to realize that we bought the system, and we spent millions of dollars improving it. And unlike other water systems, we have a 50% reserve in our groundwater usage. So we get to manage our own groundwater, and that's and we treat our own groundwater, and it's very, very pure and very good water. So it's not like we're just paying more and we should merge with somebody else to pay less. They have higher costs. They're just to other agencies. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let's go now to the consent agenda. Do we have any items to pull for discussion? If not, I'd like a motion, please.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So Sid and Bill moving and seconding. Clemens, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Dicker?
Aye.
Director Young,
I moved it.
You moved it, but we're
Go
voting.
ahead.
We're voting now.
Oh, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
tired. Aye.
Okay.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Softke, Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Okay. The consent agenda is approved by 5-0. Let's go to new business item 1, review and possible action concerning review of Recology 2025 solid waste rate increase.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So we have our franchise agreement with Recology is essentially stating that every year we are considering a rate increase, and that's due to a number of factors that are considered. This year, the information that Recology provides requests a 22.36 rate increase for the calendar year 2025. However, our contract has a cap of 6% on to prevent rate shock. So we will essentially authorize a 6% agreed upon rate for the 2025 cost increase for solid waste disposal. And we didn't have the rate at the time of the preparation of the staff report, but what it really means is that a standard 32-gallon can that currently costs $40.55 will go up to $42.98. And so this year is the calculation is really based on a cost-based calculation. And one of the main factors that I think we see in here is that we had already some deferred rate increases in the past years, meaning we saw some that were greater than 6%, and we authorized only a 6% rate increase. So that's one of the factors that's probably causing this here. Each year, we're asking our accountant, Peter Medina, RVE Accounting, to review the provided information from Recology and to provide a report. But I'm going to ask Peter to essentially tell us what he sees in the number. And the staff recommendation is ultimately to receive the report on the review of the suggested rate increase, and also then to authorize the district staff to move forward with an updated Prop 218 notice utilizing the 6% increase cap as agreed upon the district and Recology. Also want to mention that Glenn Bongi is in attendance at this meeting. So we may be able to ask any questions, but I would suggest that we give Peter a chance to present his report.
We'll go to questions after.
I just-
We'll go to questions after the staff report.
I didn't understand any of that.
Yeah, and there's no
All right.
difference on here either. There's no
Let's
variance.
let Peter.
I just said we did not have the rates. This is
I
a
don't know
what
what you were talking about.
Okay, I'm gonna-
Two words rate.
I'm
The
gonna
word rate is used in two different ways.
ask us to hold until Peter's made the presentation, and then we can go to clarifying questions. Peter?
Good evening, folks. As Clement said, Recology provides at the beginning of September what is called Exhibit E, which basically lays out how the rate will be applied, and it goes through their expense detail, and so this is a cost-based year. So every third year there's a cost-based adjustment when really it ties out the expenditures to their 9/30/2023 audited financial statements, and then from there allocates between the three users on the coast side: Pacifica, El Renata, and Montara. And from there, it is applied. The indices are applied twice, and then from there the calculation goes to how these costs now reflect to their current rate. And so I said, going through that process, my process is really to go through and say, okay, are there any errors here in either the calculations themselves, various, it's a large spreadsheet. And so going through and saying, okay, are the cells being applied properly? Are there any kind of issues that are here that are not in the agreement? And basically kind of go through the rationale of the worksheet to say at the end, okay, does it make sense and is it applying the rate properly? And so at the end, I said that is really what my report provides. And at the end of it, as Clement said, we did not have the updated rates. And that's the only piece that you'll see as far as when I was reviewing the agreed upon rate being 6% was not being used subsequent to the agenda being published. It now has been. So I said it was more of a timing issue, but I said my procedures are really just to go through and verify all the pieces that I can, and then really kind of say, is it being calculated properly? So that's what you have before you.
So can I ask you to clarify, Peter? I think if I understand Bill's question, we're hearing rate being used in two different ways. And I think one is to the increase and the other is in the charges for the service. Right? So if I understand correctly, the service, say the service cost $1 and you're saying they wanted $1.22 for the same thing in the coming year. And after examining the agreement, you're saying the agreement says it's going to be limited to only a 6% increase. So instead of $1.22 in the coming year, according to the agreement, we believe that means $1.06. But in the subsequent year, that's when we do the true up to actual costs, and that's when we'll see a bigger jump. Is that a fair summary of what you just said?
Yes, more or less. So our current rate using the 2024 calendar year, we have all those rates laid out. And then as far as the increase factor to apply to those rates, I said was first at 22.36%. And I said what the cap is 6%. And that adjustment factor will be applied to the current rates to get to the increased to the increased rate for 2025. And in terms of the rollover for the other pieces, yes, there are years where it's been below 6. The last few years we've been over 6, so there is an accumulation factor of sorts that will be renegotiated when this current agreement runs, which is through 2028.
I have even more questions than before. So I just want to say it back in my words, because everything until now has been such a fog, because there are 3 ways in which the word rate is being used and not 2. So first of all, the calculations of costs say that nominally we ought to pay 22% more next year than this year. Is that roughly what's going on? Just the cost increase is 22%. Is that true?
Correct.
All right, cool. Now, the second part, I had been thinking that rates was the rates we are allowed to charge our ratepayers, which we just capped at somewhere around 6%. So I thought the 6% was referring to what we charge our customers. And you're saying, no, it is a separate contractual cap on how much we have to pay Recology. Is that also true?
No, our customers pay Recology.
The rate at which customers are charged was a 6%. Is that the same 6% here, or is that a different 6%?
This is what we control. We have an agreement that controls how much Recology can charge our community, our customers.
Okay, so it's not going through us, but we're allowed to sort of.
We
So
negotiate.
who floats the difference?
The way the contract works is very explicit. Why don't you take it, Connors?
Okay. So the contract simply specifies that no rate increase can be greater than 6%. All of the cost increases are essentially building up. So what's going to happen is that when in 2028, when that contract runs out, we will have to negotiate a new franchise agreement and preferably start early on the negotiations to be able to smooth out the outstanding built up rates.
What's the
In that
difference?
context, for example, I want to mention that we've actually even seen in this contract a rate decrease. So I understand that currently the trend is that the costs are going up. So we've also seen the difference, the opposite.
So insofar as the one thing for us to really think about is what happens in a few years, what do we expect the cumulative rate increase would be if it were merely on a cost basis? What is the neutral around which we expect that negotiation will be? 50%? I mean, just give me a number, I'll
Well,
believe
I
it, but
think
it's
that
probably big.
What you're seeing with the 22.36%.
Mhm.
This is, if I understand correctly, based tied directly to their increase in cost.
Exactly.
So we would, without the agreement that we have in place, that would just be a straight pass through.
Yes.
So, but I think this gives you an idea
In a
of,
few years, we're going to reset. I'd like to be able to tell people if their garbage rates are going to double. If we're talking doubling, I want to know it before it happens.
well, once we get to the place where we're negotiating with them,
But-
then but this is a contract negotiation and
Well,
you can
the
talk about what you
question
want to
I'm
do.
asking, for instance, this year is 22%. Now, if it were 22% per year for 5 years, that would be more than a doubling. So we have the numbers of the cost. Every year they have this number. We can add them up over the different years or something and figure out where they go to. We don't need to wait for the negotiation. I don't think.
This is the current delta. Am I right?
Correct. So
So
going back to
this is the accrued difference.
Since the very beginning, not just 1 year over.
No, okay, Peter shaking his head. So
no, so this is the delta based on the last cost base adjustment, which was 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. All right, so 22% per year divided by 3 now around.
Yeah,
seven.
we go back to, so in terms of handy numbers, back in 2021, we had a 2% increase. 2022 was 9.19%. The factor was adjusted, and then 2023 5.61. So that said, they're in years where we're below, we add the delta from the previous year to get at around 6%. So
Okay, so they've got this thing and we're kind of a stair step approaching a straight line.
yeah, I think it'd be fair to say that when we set the contract in place, we anticipated something like probably costs are going to go up at about 6%. Because if you look at, the cost of doing business, the indices that track that, this is not far off. Where things went wacky were, the past 3-4 years with the big economic crisis, a lot of inflation happened. So, and there, but don't get too, there's no confidence in a straight line number.
I know, but
Because let me give you an example. This is where I'm going. I'll take a breath and then you can get yours in. But among other things, there were changes in state regulations about emissions from large vehicles, and I understand they bought new trucks in response to the regulations, and that's a significant expense. And so that's a pretty big step function happening right there. That one's behind them, but what the future holds is.
yeah, I'm not doubting. I have zero doubts about the wisdom of any of these expenses. But for the clarity of my understanding, it's only now that I understand what's happening. I didn't understand any of that stuff.
Sure.
But the way this thing could have been opened is to say that our ratepayers are paying getting on average about a 6% annual rate increase, and we expect on average that to be true over the course of many years. But Recology has a cost basis where they market every 3 years. And so they build this giant delta, and every 3 years they say 20%, and then they kind of ratchet back to it. So the two wind up lining up reasonably well over time. Now, if I'd known that was the baseline situation in place, then it's much easier to understand that this 22% is just normal. It sounds like this is what happens like on every 3rd year, right?
No. And to the point that you just made, I don't want to put too much emphasis on this, but the first 2 paragraphs of the staff report carried the information that you were asking to be put in the presentation. So it's all right there. It's written down, and the staff does a lot of work to prepare these. And I'm just gonna
okay.
direct
Sorry,
that.
I might have
I think
missed
there's
it.
a lot
I
more
might
there.
have missed it.
This is tricky business, and it's not something that everybody absorbs immediately. And it does take some wrangling to get it. There's nothing wrong with that. So Okay, so Clemens, you're asking that we receive the report and that we direct staff to move forward. And if I don't, oh, Sid, thank you for
No,
being
he
patient.
was taking his time, but
Thank you for
my
being patient.
problem is I don't really want to approve this because it shows that these red numbers are the same as 2024, and the public is going to think there's no increase. And then it just shows the red numbers with X per month, and that will estimate your next monthly bill. And it doesn't show anything. And the other thing is, when I switched over from with the PG&E CARES program discount, and I called Recology, in Pacifica, they get a discount for the smallest can. And this is when Chris Porter was still there. They had to make an accommodation because Montara wasn't getting the discount for the smallest can. They said that the woman told me on the phone, oh, well, you don't get the discount on the smallest can. Montara pays, their senior discount went away. So the CARES discount, we're charging you for the medium can. And so you're not getting a cheaper deal on the small can.
Let's take this as a question to staff. Clemens?
Well, I'm just saying I wanted to
So, I'm
look
just-
at it the next time we get a.
I'm just
Let's
gonna,
get some information first.
okay, so first of all, to the discount rate. That is absolutely not true. The discount is in place, and Glenn is listening to this. I'm certain he is gonna reach out to you tomorrow and explain what's going on.
Well, it's not showing on here. That's why I don't want
This
to
is a
approve it
draft.
tonight.
Let Clemens address this as well.
Okay,
You're not approving, you're approving that we send out a Prop 218 notice. What you have in front of you is a draft. We had no rates available at the preparation of the staff report. And that is why everything that is in red will be revised.
oh, before we send the
And-
notice.
Yes, and other things. You're not approving the Prop 218 notice.
Thank
You will
you.
leave it up to staff on how the Prop 218 notice is formulated
I'll
and
feel
sent
better
out.
about that then. Especially if they put the draft over the lettering, because I couldn't even read it.
It says draft. He introduced it as draft.
We won't be mailing it out that way. in other
And
words.
the action that we're taking is authorizing them to prepare and send a 218 notice. And this is not represented as the notice.
I feel better now. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that.
So now that we have that understanding, I believe that we have enough to receive the report and direct staff to prepare and send the 218 notice for the 6% increase.
Make that motion.
I don't think we need a motion. I think all we're doing is directing staff. Do we need a motion?
No.
Okay. So in the interest of efficiency, let's proceed on then to item 2, review and possible action concerning district standard specifications for the water system.
Okay, thank you. So I think this is a fairly easy item. We're in need of a standard that defines on how we're abandoning pipelines. And these are really service lines.
When you say service line, you mean for homes or buildings?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes. So
Water, sewer,
if,
both.
I'm sorry,
Water, sewer, both.
water service lines. So this is, we're asking to amend our water systems district standard specifications with the additional standard 1506, amendment of pipelines, as well as standard drawing 25. And that essentially specifies what type of clamp and how this, which size, etc., is supposed to cover the hole that's remaining so that the pipeline remains in stable conditions. There are various ways, and so far, district staff and district engineer have made, decisions about this, but we really feel that a standard specification is required and helps all the third-party contractors that are charged with the implementation to prepare and as also, charge accordingly, base their cost estimates for the work, prepare those, etc. So there's a number of reasons why we would like to amend the water system standard specifications with these two items.
Yes, Ed?
Does this come up frequently, or is it just like on old houses or old properties, or like when they're doing the school or the old hospital and stuff? Is this a regular thing that comes up all the time?
It's something that has increased in recent times, particularly with the additional dwelling unit constructions that we've been seeing, where now, larger pipes need to be installed to serve both, or additional pipes need to be installed to serve, both or all three units, how many ever there are. So that's where we see all of a sudden an increase in, the abandonment of old lines. And, that needs to be done properly. We ultimately, what we're trying to avoid is a situation where old equipment that is left in the ground leads to a future water leak and a future repair. So it's protecting us.
Sounds prudent, thanks.
That this made perfect sense, and just as a general principle, the very best ways that government can often protect the public health are by technical standards and weights and measures and things exactly like this. So hooray, hooray.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to adopt the recommendation as written. So Sid has moved it.
Second.
Bill has seconded. Can we have a roll call vote for these comments?
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Young,
Hi,
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Sofke,
Aye.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Okay, by 5-0, the motion's approved. Clemens, I will note there's a typo in the next to last word of line B. Might want to.
All right, thank you. We'll amend it accordingly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to item 3, review of the 2015 strategic plan.
Yeah, thank you. So we've been talking I think since the springtime about the need for a renewed strategic plan in this district. And we are in the process, or we are about to initiate the process. So all of that will really start in November. We're starting with the actual new strategic plan in November. So this is really the announcement that we are, going through this process, and that we anticipate that the consultant will, start interviews. We're going to start making presentations, have specific workshops starting in November. And we anticipate that the process will take several months to complete. Christmas is on the horizon, so I'm assuming we're talking about really January or possibly even February until we have a completed brand new plan. So we attached the 2015 strategic plan simply, so this is the old plan, simply so that our new board members can really understand, well, what was in the old plan. It's could be a basis for our new plan, but I want to point out, this plan is completely outdated, or not completely outdated. You'll actually see that a number of goals probably will remain in place. I think there's a number of things that we're still working on that we had as goals in 2019, but others may have changed very significantly. I think I pointed out, for example, the situation with the city of Half Moon Bay suing the sewer agencies on the coast side. They are, of course, one of the sewer agencies that are suing. And that, led to significant changes. And all of these changes within the past 9 years, this is pre-COVID, This is pre number of droughts. We've made some significant progress in some fields. Like I said, others remain almost unchanged. So I think this is probably just a good, just take a good look at this plan. And we'll start preparing a brand new strategic plan in November.
You were here, oh, sorry.
Go let it go.
You were
Mine's
here
big.
before, and I started reading this, but I didn't have time to finish reading the whole thing. Did they, part of the group was like small group, and then they had the community group, I know I went to that. But was the first group like handpicked participants?
Yes,
Okay,
there's a variety of interviews that will be considered in this process.
I mean, I saw people's names on there, like Lisa Ketchum and other people, I didn't recognize
Yes.
their names.
We'll
but-
try to identify stakeholders and try to, work with them in this process as well.
Yeah, I thought Martin Roush did a very nice job of being very thoughtful and as thorough as we could manage. I mean, Bill, you had a
Yeah, I read it today. And it's magnificent. It's probably the clearest, most sensible government-related document I've ever come across, out of not a giant pile. But I walked through it. It's like there's sensible issues. It's talking about emergency preparedness. It's talking about long-term deficits, long-term infrastructure problems, communication problems, every single thing, and even the way to divide it into visions and objectives and goals and so forth makes a ton of sense. So as a document representing a plan and representing the ways in which that plan can unfold itself over time, I love it as a document. And so the context I get to understand this is I'm married to someone who is chairman of the board of a national organization, which also works with government. They work with the Federal Trade Commission, the Senate, and Congress. Their recent success is the Kids Online Safety Act, which may actually pass. It is so close. And they are the ones who've been pushing it for years. So she is the board chair of an organization dedicated also to long-term things and public health and so forth. Her board spends half of each board meeting on long-term strategic issues. And there are a lot of ways in which that's difficult and so forth. So she is very much engaged in how that happens and knows that if you have a long-term strategic plan, you need to spend many, many of your active operating hours actually talking about it. And that's my disappointment. I'm a board member almost 2 years. I barely knew about it. I haven't seen it. I didn't know anything in it. None of the issues are agenda items. So somehow, even though it is the perfect document, somewhere between Habit and the Brown Act, there's no way for us to actually tell each other. There hasn't been a group of, nobody can, we should sit down, we should have a 3-hour conversation about the thing everybody's been working on. But as far as I can tell, that might not be legal. So I am deeply disappointed. To the degree that I love it as a document, I'm deeply disappointed that I, as a board member, have had zero way to do anything about it or even know what it says or that it exists.
I think it's going to be really helpful to cover, to go over some of the issues that were raised in the strategic, captured in the plan that over the years we have addressed and covered. And I think you'll see meeting after meeting after meeting that involved all of the board level work that had to happen to address those issues. So it's not that they don't happen at the board level, so that many of them already have. And what we're about to engage in is a recalibration, given that we've got of the board, only 2 of the board members are still here. The other three board members are no longer on the board. So we've had a change in board composition. It's a really good time to recalibrate. And it's going to be a methodical process to go through. And we will be talking about issues that each of us may be passionate about getting onto the strategic plan. Will be, some of us will be excited that the team thinks it's a good idea, and others will be disappointed that maybe the team doesn't agree. That's how this works. When we had the big community meeting, you remember Martin facilitated speaker after speaker for a couple of hours, I think, people getting up, with pretty impassioned pleas to take into consideration something that they were pitching.
Mhm.
Martin diligently wrote every single one of these down on these really large Post-it notes that one by one, as they filled out, he put on the wall. And the walls of the room were filled with these, and then everyone was given 3 green stickers
Mhm.
and turned loose to go put your stickers anywhere you want. You can put 3 on one thing, or you can spread them across 3 different things. And I think the things you see in the strategic plan reflect those things that got a lot of green stickers. And the thing I want
Yes.
to highlight is 2/3 of what was written down, nobody put any stickers on, even the people who had
It
put their,
failed, it failed to pass.
no, they had shared their thoughts,
Yeah.
and then upon reflection, they decided they wanted to put more emphasis on something else. It wasn't wrong, it was just, we can only do so many things,
But
and
number
we're
2
gonna,
was community
But-
park.
So I just counted the votes. 94 votes went for the top, no consolidation, develop community park district, develop our own internet surface and infrastructure development. Those are the top 4, 94 votes. 65 was all the rest after that. So the top 4 things got votes, which are not actually water or sewer. And I didn't know that until today by diving into the numbers like a Peter Decker. I should have been told this the very first day I signed up. That's what I mean. That's what I'm complaining about. I should have
I'm
known.
gonna say it's been very clearly available on the website, and we might do more to emphasize it, but
People can talk to me. They
but-
can say things.
But I also want to say that the community sharing their green dots to express their interest. This isn't. That's sentiment analysis.
Yeah.
Right? And we have done many things to explore down those paths. And as Clemens mentioned in his presentation, certain things have forced themselves upon us that we've had to deal with, and we've spent an extraordinary amount of time and energy
Mhm.
and soul and money and time and
I've been part of that.
and migraines and dealing with what Half Moon Bay
Mhm.
has thrust
Of course.
upon its
Yep,
neighbors.
yes.
So
Or Sabrina Brennan
Wait.
looking at that wall right there.
It really, I'm gonna try to not over talk anyone else, and I'm again remind everyone. So we'll be going through some things. We can always talk about how we can better make certain things more obvious and available and make people aware. We're always looking to do that. I think we're generally very good as an agency about that. Let me go to Catherine. Your hand is up.
Thank you. Bill, I'd like to ask Christine to comment on the legality issue that Bill just raised. I don't want to leave that kind of thing hanging and creating problems in the future. And I will say that, in fact, our strategic plan has been on is on our website. And your particular bias about exploring things via the computer leaves you somewhat handicapped. We can't all know what you don't know. You got a new member board orientation. Clemens spent a significant amount of time talking to you. It is also a personal responsibility of every board member to be aware of what's going on here and to find different ways to ask. So, but I'm very concerned. You on several times in the past few months, you've mentioned a legal deficiency for the district. And I don't want those kinds of things hanging out there for somebody to cause problems for. So Christine, if you could answer that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. I want to make sure, though, that I understand Bill's comment or question. Can you repeat, Bill, what Catherine's referring to? Did you mention there's a legal deficiency in the strategic plan preparation?
It's easier if I explain what I mean than if I try to explain what somebody might have misheard over Zoom or something like that. But the way in which, so let's see, I'm not saying there's a problem in the strategic plan, it seems to be a perfectly constructed document, and evidently there are rules about how one constructs a strategic plan, and this got 100%. What I'm disappointed at is that, as far as I know, the 5 long-term decision makers and the people who should be thinking strategically are the ones who vote here. And if that is true, and then maybe strategic plans don't do that. Maybe they're written by the staff, for the staff, and the board isn't supposed to be involved, in which case it's like the state defining potable water as chlorinated. It's just some kind of administrative insanity that I don't know about and may never understand. But to the degree that the board is the strategic arm of the water district, and to the degree that the strategic plan is the document we ought to be understanding and consulting, to that same degree, I ought to be sitting in rooms with other board members, reading the strategic plan and talking about it. Clements is a great guy to talk to, but he never got into the details, and I can't have a conversation with fellow board members if Clements is the only one there. So the process by which we as a board actually make use of this document we spend all this effort for is precisely the thing I'm talking about. That's why merely reading a document cold without talking to somebody is almost never useful as a human understanding tool. So insofar as Catherine gets to tell me about personal responsibility, I will lecture the world about the algorithmic and bandwidth nature of human communication. But that's what I'm talking about. We need to be able to converse with each other enough to really understand the interplay of the issues. 3-minute snippets on video will not cut it for resolving hard problems.
So you raised an issue about legality. I don't think you clarified at all for Christine what she was trying.
I'm not sure I did, but it's much easier to say what I believe is scientific truth than to misstate things I might have misknown about the law.
You made a statement which I will correct because I understand what you said. You said that it might be illegal for us to even talk about these things.
I don't know.
In the construct that you have, perhaps we have a place where we are free to talk about things that are properly the board's business and properly agendized. If they're not agendized,
Exactly.
the Brown
Yes.
Act says that I'll talk. That the public has the right to see its business conducted in public. So it's required by law that we have agendas that talk about what we're going to talk about and what actions we might take. Once that's happened and we convene a properly agendized and properly convened meeting, then we can talk about those things that are on the agenda within the scope of how they're described on the agenda. So
Yes, exactly.
and then I went on and clarified that many of the things in the strategic plan have been the proper subject matter that this board has considered and acted on.
Yes. Yeah.
So to Catherine's comment, your broadside against the board for not providing opportunity to discuss items that are part of the strategic plan is misleading and false, and it's falsifiable because I have already demonstrated, and I'm happy if you need me to look into past agendas and point out items that were properly agendized and discussed at length at this board table in this room and recorded in the minutes of this district to demonstrate that your claim that there is no legal way to talk about these things it's a falsifiable claim, and I consider it done. I hope you do too.
No, both of you completely misunderstood everything I'm talking about. And insofar as I'm the only one who understands this perspective, I think I should probably explain it as long as I need to until we're all on the same page. I did not make a broadside against the board. Literally, the only thing I said is the enemy would be the Brown Act. And a broadside against an administrative law 50 years old, it's a thing, but it's not against the people I work with. It's against an administrative structure which seems to impede problem solving. And so I, as an expert on problem solving and communication, can say, yes, there are many of these things which are agendized. In fact, probably most of these things have appeared in some form on agenda items. But when you're trying to talk about long-term trade-offs and people's fears about things and emergency preparedness, it doesn't always fit on an agenda, and there's no way a freewheeling conversation can in advance announce to the public all of the things you're going to converse about. That isn't how communication works. So my complaint is not about us. My complaint is that we are embedded in what seems to be, I'm not making legal claims here, Christine, so don't let anyone call me on it, what seems to be an administrative structure which makes actually resolving difficult long-term problems very, somewhere between difficult and impossible. Greg Diegas, I expect, would back me up on many pieces of that, but long-term stuff is hard to talk about.
Okay, I'm just gonna tell you again, based on past experience, based on past meetings and agendas and discussions and minutes and actions taken and accomplishments achieved, I completely strongly disagree that the Brown Act is keeping us from doing the important business with proper amounts of consideration and discussion.
All right.
I think the evidence is manifestly clear. We would not own the water system were your claim true. But we did all of that under the auspices of the Brown Act without trouble.
That's
Without
not
trouble.
falsifying. It didn't falsify anything I said.
What you said was that the structure doesn't allow for proper discussion and consideration.
Yes,
And
I didn't say it doesn't allow something.
the
Allow something, not what we need.
the 5 years it took from when I got on the board to when we took the keys of the water system involved countless hours of contemplation, discussion, deliberation, decision making, all carefully within the confines of the Brown Act. We weren't constrained by that. That facilitated our doing the public's business in public.
Good.
And it's there.
Let's do it again.
It's there for, yeah, and let me point out, you did express dismay at the board and at the staff for the way this works and how you're not getting what you want out of seeing that kind of stuff on agendas. We can put things on agendas. We can talk about them. We can spend the time it takes to deal with them. Clemens has had his hand up, and then we'll go to Peter.
I'm actually very excited about your enthusiasm about the plan and working with the plan. You may have noticed that many of the items actually require board participation, and there are many duties that the board has to fulfill in this plan spelled out. So I'm very much looking forward to, working with the board that steps up and actually participates and uses this plan as it is designed to do so. I want to just correct, you said something that you're not able to meet with other board members. Of course, you're able to meet with other board members one-on-one. You can't meet with two of them or in a group, but you are always, I think any other board member would be welcoming a discussion with you at any time.
Sure.
So, again, I think, this is a process that requires two sides to participate in it. And I'm very much looking forward to the new plan achieving exactly that.
Okay, good.
No, say, I'm sorry, Peter, and then say.
Peter.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I will make this very simple. On page 5 of the report, it says, to keep it fresh, it must be updated annually and rolled forward so that there is always a 5-year guide.
Yep.
I would
Gotcha.
suggest in view of Bill's comments about never having seen this strategic report, that we in the future do that we update this report annually in the board meeting. And
Cool.
that we then decide on the next 5 years. I also found very funny in the report to read that in terms of priorities, our force main pipeline is at the very end. It was considered 5 years ago to be the least priority and needed item. So yeah, updated.
Mhm. Yes,
Update
okay,
the
good,
report
good.
Annually,
It's a thing.
very helpful.
I will point out that one of the things you said is, a lot of what we've been doing has not been the long-term vision things. but a lot of what we've been doing is at the bottom of the public perception of what's really important. And
Mhm.
tending to the force main, tending to pumps
Yeah.
and drilling
Oh,
out,
yeah.
drilling out wells and trying to figure out what to do with the well casing that went to the bottom. And some of the minutia is actually it's table stakes. It's the basic ground game. It's the stuff that we're going to be doing a lot of things that are not glamorous because, well, that's what it takes to run an agency. If you think that a lot of what we do is minutia, you should see what staff does day in, day out. It's way more of that.
Somebody had to draw that pipe.
Staff is distilling things down for us and bringing us the things that need discussion and decision. So thank you for that reminder. I'm seeing Clemens.
I just want to add one more comment and repeat what I just said at the beginning. We've been talking since springtime about the strategic planning. I think what Catherine said, I just want to repeat. I would expect you to take a look at that plan on your own. I've also made this plan very clear with the board introduction to you, and we have had a number of conversations about the strategic plan. I'm sorry you don't remember this, apparently, but I'm just gonna repeat what I said. I think I would expect you to take the initiative, if we talk about this since almost a year, to actually take a look at the document.
If there's never anyone to talk about it with, why bother?
It's my turn.
It is your turn.
Okay, so, well, I think it's really important to have a plan, but never just to stick it in the drawer. So that's important. And like you said in your wife's meeting, that they always bring it out and talk about it. So one of the things it says here on page 19 of the plan we put together back in 2015, and it says expectations and results. You know, in order to ensure that this plan is implemented and results are achieved, the district plans to take the following steps. Publish it, incorporate the mission, and actively implement the work plan by management team, and also incorporate the strategic plan monitoring by boards, committees, and as appropriate, and provide a semi-annual report to the entire board on progress, review and update the strategic plan annually and roll it forward. That's, we haven't done. So we
Well,
should do that. And
not
like
true.
looking at that thing right there on that thing, that's something that's not in this plan because that came along and hit us, so we had to drop everything and do it, you know?
That's a really good point.
And-
That the lawsuit,
Yeah.
this lawsuit, you're right.
And we've always had, like, I had a boss and he used to tell us, run to the problem. So we were always putting out little fires, big fires sometimes.
Yeah.
And the Half Moon Bay lawsuit's another big fire that we've always had to stop and do those things that we didn't really anticipate. So, we have to remember that we should always go back to our strategic plan and update it, but it helps to update it.
Let me go to Catherine real quick and then Clemens with the final comment, and then we'll move on to the rest of the business.
A quick comment. Every single special district in California and government agency operates under the Brown Act. The state of California gets a whole lot of planning and a whole lot of stuff done. The Brown Act is to protect the public from behind the scenes deals. And it's a very, very critical part of representative government. And I think a strategic plan is a point in time from the community. And there are general concepts that this board has been working on. For instance, we've been trying to acquire the Caltrans land and are still working on it for years. And it has recently been a point of discussion of this board. That's what that's what we were talking about. So it's important to remember a strategic plan is a point in time. One of my suggestions is that I have seen other agencies use a reference to the strategic plan in some agenda items. Not every agenda item, because not every agenda item will relate to the strategic plan. But certainly when they do, we can figure out to say this applies to the strategic plan. But this board has been very dedicated in meeting the needs of the community. And and I will repeat myself, you can go to the CSDA and take a class on and take a workshop on the Brown Act. It's actually changed quite a bit. I took one recently at the CSDA conference, and I actually brought home for MWSD a small data stick that has the Brown Act on it, for folks who are willing to read their computers.
So we're
Thank
going to, thank you, Catherine Clemens.
I just wanted to chime in and pretty much add emphasis to what Sid said. The plan needs annual updating, and that requires board participation. And so we went through a number of updates. I did not put those in. I put only the original 2015 plan in. And again, I just want to emphasize, without the board's participation, there is no update. And so I'm very much looking forward to, this process being, taken very serious going forward.
So that was one last thing I was gonna say. I have a surgery coming up in November, and Clemens said that there was gonna be a board meeting to discuss one of our first, we can't do Brown Act things, but the 24th.
Let's discuss scheduling later. We don't need to do that during the meeting.
Okay, but I've got a lot of medical things
Yeah,
coming up.
so we'll discuss that and we'll work that out. Let's not do
Yes.
that here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so all right. Now for the fun, reports, sewer authority mid-coast side.
Let's, Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side, the October 14th meeting will be canceled and the 2 September meetings were canceled. We got our finances in for the most recent quarter, and they're available, I think, are in our last agenda. I don't think we've approved the minutes, but they are available on the agenda.
You know why they were canceled?
I've been told there was no immediate business that needed to be approved by the board.
Okay, Mid-Coast Community Council, Greg Dieguez, please.
Hi, just a quick one. We also had a meeting canceled, so I don't have a lot. We are going to be discussing the lighting on the El Granada School parking lot at the upcoming meeting. Some of you may be aware there's been some controversy and discomfort with the lighting on Farallon View, which is also being negotiated and adjusted. El Granada's parking lot has similar potential issues in terms of blocking views of the ocean and so forth. And then we're going to take another step and discuss a coastside dark skies ordinance.
Yay.
So I just want to make you aware, there are people on both sides of that issue, I'm sure, but it's something that we feel is important. And then finally, we have 3 vacancies on the MCC and no candidates running. So I'm exploring, along with Scott Bollinger, with the elections department of the county, the possibility of having write-in candidates. I had thought it was as simple as just write in who you want, but apparently there's more to it. So we are actively looking for people who would like to run or be appointed if we don't find candidates who will run in the election. And that's the update. If there are any questions, let me know.
Yes, Bill.
The Dark Skies project is so important to me that I would like to volunteer the use of my very weird scientific instruments, which can measure the color spectrum. And I measured it for Farallon View. I emailed it to Dan Haggerty, the color spectrum with all the extra blue in those lights. And I also have a flicker detector where you can hear the sound of light buzzing and whining at you. So if you've got people with things, invite me over, I'll measure it and show you some cool information to make your case.
I would like to take you up on that for Farallon View, to find out how much light's being thrown off by the existing light on the buildings, which might help determine whether we need a lot more for the parking lot. But we'll discuss that later. Thanks for the offer.
Catherine?
She's muted. By the way, I misspoke. I meant El Granada, Bill, not Fairlawn. You already done Fairlawn.
Oh, sorry, I hit the wrong button. In any event, if you look at the grocery outlet parking lot in Pacifica, they have put up all these horrendous solar panels for their parking lot lights. I don't know whether it's the feds or the state or who's initiating this. I've seen this at a number of different parking lots. Please if they go for solar power for these parking lot lights, don't put them at the top of the lights. They have to be more attractively designed than just putting these solar panels on the top of lights. If you drive to Pacifica and look on the ocean side, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty horrendous. Okay, well, thank you for that report. Let's get to the next one, CSDA, Catherine.
San Mateo County CSDA, we're still working on the bylaws. I went to the state CSDA meeting in Indian Wells. Sid, I can see why you love that area, Palm Springs, so much. It's absolutely gorgeous. But there was as I said, there was a class that was given on the Brown Act. It has changed a lot, and particularly on sexual harassment, which is horrendous. And we all need to make sure we are up to date on these things that the legislature is forcing us to be aware of. But between the Brown Act and the sexual harassment prevention class, I think I'm at the point now where I think we should just as a personal protection take these workshops, and they're free on CSDA every year because the legislature is very busy churning out changes. Thank you.
Okay. So did you cover LAFCO or did you want to do that separately?
No, I didn't. The LAFCO meeting was September 18th. The East Palo Alto Sanitary District is now operated by the city of East Palo Alto. I can say that what I'm seeing with special districts, having watched LAFCO, is that most of them are pretty clueless about their finances and how to run a district. There's a lot of problems with the Broadmoor Police District. And again, they are desperate. They really don't understand how to finance and how to take finances into planning for a special district. And I want to thank Peter and Peter. We are so incredibly fortunate to have such talent keeping an eye on our books. But this appears to be one of the biggest problems for special districts is the finance. There was a CSDA sphere of influence amendment in which CSA 11 was annexed by the middle school and the high school. It's an interesting project because it involves also putting the new fire district building on the half of the land owned by the middle school, high school that was supposed to be used for an expansion of the school. And there was a bond for it, but they've decided to build a fire district building there. And so that's pretty much what's going on with LAFCO. Week after next, I'm going to the statewide LAFCO conference, and I will be able to report more on that. But oh, and the other thing that LAFCO is doing is starting its municipal service review of the Harbor District. So that's what's going on with LAFCO. Now, the next meeting is, let me see, October, I think it's in December.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Christine, anything for the attorney's report?
No attorney's report, but I would like to echo Catherine's comment about training, and there's required training that I know Clemens and Tracy keep you all up to date on, but there's also additional training not necessarily required as part of your duties on various other topics like local agency or special district financing. And Catherine, you mentioned, I think through CSDA, which the district is a member, there's so many webinars and resources for every staff member or attorneys of special districts. So just a reminder, never hurts to get more training.
Thank you for that
Yeah.
reminder. And I have my browser window open. I'm started into my compliance training for the 2024 FX 801234 training on the CSDA website. So I'm set up. Noticed while I was there's several other trainings that look really interesting. So I'll probably take more than one. Director's reports. Sid, I see your hand.
Yes, it was on next door to the state, and San Mateo County is suing AHMC because they closed the
Allergies Medical Institute, and I don't know.
it's Seton Coastside's emergency room was closed, and
Okay, good. That one.
AHMC is the parent of Seton Coastside. They've changed their names so many times. When I first moved here, it was St. Catherine's, you know, and so anyway, NSU got the state involved and the county because, you know, Ray Mueller tried to negotiate.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Keep going.
So there's gonna be, it was announced on Nextdoor that Senior Coastsiders is gonna try to have a meeting at the Oceana Hotel on the 29th of October to try to, you know, get the community involved, but you know, I don't know what's gonna happen. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Oceana Hotel. So.
Okay, thank you, Sid.
You're welcome.
Any other director's reports? Catherine?
Yes, I want to mention that the appeal that I filed at Coastal about the state removing all the parking along the front of El Granada at what we now call Surfers Beach, is going to be coming up. I believe it's at the Coastal Commission meeting that will be close by. I think it's in November. If people want to keep the parking, because the plan for the state, and it was uncontested by the San Mateo County Planning Commission, is to remove all the parking on both sides of the road between Coronado and Capistrano and turn them into large, wide bike lanes. The appeal I filed talks about coastal access because it will eliminate coastal access. I drove down to Memorial Park last weekend, and it was packed along there with parked cars, and there were no bicycles going along there. The biggest place that I saw the bicycles was on the twisty road going up to Memorial Park at Pescadero. So I will be putting out personally the name of the coastal commissioner, or not the commissioner, the coastal staff person who is working on this. And if people have comments, please send them to me at catherine.s.c@gmail, not my MWSD address. But I think this is an important issue for everyone who lives on the coast side. Thank you.
You know, Catherine, I think you should post the thing on Nextdoor so people can write letters to the Coastal Commission.
It's been on my to-do list, Sid. Thank you.
Okay, any other director's reports? Clemens, anything general manager's report?
Nothing to add to be written.
Okay,
Manager's
so
report.
just for, okay, Peter?
A question on the general manager report. I see all these pipe bursting projects. Are those our pipes? Are those laterals? Or what pipes is burst? What pipes are bursting here? Because there's so many of them in so many places.
I want to see what.
871, 700 and 900 Hartley, no, 871, 800 and 900 Hartley, all had pipe bursting projects. And then it comes back with
Yes.
birch, cedar, date,
Yeah, that's
They
the
come-
sewer project.
right?
That's the sewer
Oh, that's
project.
the renewal of the pipes.
Yes.
So that's not a pipe bursting, but that's a pipe being replaced.
It is the existing pipe, existing sewer pipe is burst. There is essentially a new pipe pulled through. There's a cutting head at the beginning of the new pipe, and that is driven through, pushed and pulled at the same time
Bursting means replacement.
No,
Yeah,
no,
so-
but he's specifically describing a
through the
process that,
existing pipe. So it splits it up and inserts essentially into the open space a new sewer pipe. And what this describes here is that before this can be done, the water utilities need to be marked and other utilities need to be marked so that there's no conflict. There was actually a conflict on it's on Acacia Street. Was a conflict where pipe bursting was not possible because the water line was too close.
Oh, okay.
so it literally,
Then
the pipe gets burst and pushed out of the way and the new pipe comes in its
Okay, but
place.
it sounded like it was the result of a catastrophic failure of a pipe,
Well-
which is when a pipe bursts by itself, that's what happens.
Well, the funny thing is yes, it's exactly that, except it gets a little help by
Yeah.
the
It's
new pipe getting,
intentional.
the new pipe gets pulled in.
But yeah, it's
it's
doing it the
very-
right way.
It's very cool.
I wanna see it.
And sometimes you'll see a trench dug at either end of a block or a stretch of street, and you see big, long pipelines sitting in the street. And
what they're doing.
if you hang around, you'll see some people doing all the connections and doing all the work to hydraulically get that thing
That sounds
through there,
cool.
and
That
it's
sounds cool.
really impressive. Sid?
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, under repairs and leaks, it says, beach 6-inch C900 line slipped out of the bell. What does that mean?
Okay, so I don't see it exactly where it is, but
It says
C
shut down.
900 is a type of plastic pipe.
Yeah.
And what is the location?
Location is repairs and leaks, shut down at intersection in north entrance to Moss Beach Distillery.
Okay, so all right, so this I'm just gonna describe the situation. The bell is essentially the inner it's essentially a coupling, it's a long coupling. So what we see at that location is significant it's a significant landslide, an active landslide. It's an active fault line as well as an active landslide. We have significant movement. And there's a pipe going through it that is by now offset by about 8 to 10 feet. And so we see about a foot of movement per year in this section. And the way this is offset is that a number of couplings, these are larger pieces of pipe that are slipped over the C900, the plastic pipe. And if you then create some sort of an S with these couplings, you allow for some pull apart. So each coupling is 18 inches, right? And you put these two plastic pipes close together and you create an S like so, then you have some play until the pipe essentially pulls out of that coupling, out of that bell. And that's what's described here. And that's when we see a water leak.
That's the water. My neighbor's sewer line detached. She's on a landslide too.
See, this is where we get down to the brass tacks of
Yeah.
what it really takes. Thank you for the
So-
questions, Peter. Anything else?
So
Okay,
I
Sam.
have one question on the manager's report. On the fire board report, they often say they keep postponing it or something. They always have it on their list of with the fire marshal that they're gonna get with Montara Water and Sanitary to test fire hydrants, but I never see it on our report. Are we putting it off with them or are we just not listing it on our report? Are we testing a number of fire hydrants each month?
So there is actually some hydrants being tested this month. And we're also still working on an agreement with the fire district about the hydrant maintenance itself.
Oh, the
So-
agreement, okay.
Yes, so that's, I think, the issue that the agreement with the hydrant maintenance agreement is unfortunately not where we want it, but both sides are actively working on it and we're
Okay.
hoping to complete that very soon and bring it to this board.
Okey doke. That's why I was asking why it's not on our list.
Okay.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Let's see, Christine, do we have a need to go into closed session?
We don't.
Yay.
Okay,
I didn't see
so,
anything.
with that, we are at the end of our meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for attending and participating, and this is part of what it takes to make a community, and I really appreciate your participation, your hard work. And hearing no objection, this meeting is adjourned at 9:03.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're gonna have